Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff of California, of course, the ranking member of the House Intel Committee. Congressman, it's always good to see you. Where do we stand today? There seems to be so much confusion. I'm curious what you and your colleagues in the House were able to get accomplished, or the conversations you were having since you were reconvened at 9 a.m. this morning.
Well, we're really waiting to see what comes out of the White House and what emerges from the discussions in the Senate. The House has pretty much punted its responsibility. The Speaker of the House has largely abdicated to the Senate. But the bigger problem is there's a certain basic lack of competence in the White House. When you control everything as the GOP does, and you're the President of the United States, it is very hard to fail at keeping the government open. But somehow this White House has effectively shut us down. The Trump administration couldn't negotiate a deal. This from the guy that proclaims himself the great negotiator, the great deal maker. But in any event, we are hoping that the White House will reconsider. There was a package offered to the White House. He seemed amenable to it in the morning, but as we have seen too often with this president, he always reacts to the last person in his ear, and apparently the hardliners were the last in his ear.
Look, I know that there are a lot of things on the docket that must get resolved, those including government spending levels, DACA, border security, children's health care, the CHIP program, disaster aid, the list goes on and on. But with regard to DACA, which seems to be the issue that is the focal point of much of this, could Democrats have gone a different route to getting DACA resolved?
You know, it's really hard to see how we could go a different route, because the president created an artificial crisis by rescinding DACA and basically saying in March, you know, all of these 800,000 young people, their lives are going to be completely uprooted, and then letting that clock tick and tick and tick until we are where we are today. The reality is there's bipartisan support for a DREAM Act to fix this problem. There's bipartisan support for children's health care. But the White House and the GOP leadership in Congress won't allow that to be part of the package unless they can use it as leverage to get something else, to build a wall or whatever their priority is. And that, you know, that's a shame. It's resulted in the shutdown. The president needs to take responsibility for this shutdown, and more than that, needs to come to the table and be willing to negotiate.
So as we try to look ahead, if Democrats and Republicans, sir, were not able to compromise enough to get a deal done, what, almost 14 hours ago, what is going to change in the coming hours or days to get to a deal? And if a deal is possible, why was that not made 14 hours ago?
I think as a practical matter, what's going to need to happen is the White House is going to have to hear from the American people that they're fed up with this, that they are going to demand competence out of this White House and this leadership in Congress, or they're going to replace the GOP majority in Congress. When the president starts to feel that kind of pressure, then he will come to the table. I suspect they're feeling it already, because the country recognizes, look, when you give the GOP the keys to the kingdom and you give them control of everything, if they can't even do the basic rudiments of government, keeping the doors open, then they're going to have to go. So pressure is already building, I think, on the GOP to come to the table. I hope that results in pushing aside, you know, these hardliners like Tom Cotton and others that are, you know, sort of build a wall at any cost, and let us get a resolution, get the government open again, get federal workers back in their offices, and get the American people back to being able to obtain the services of the federal government.
All right, Representative Adam Schiff, I know it's a very busy day for you. Thank you for carving out some time for us here on MSNBC. Much appreciated.